Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the First Principles Podcast. My name is JC, and I'm so excited to be here. On this one, I want to talk about one of the men that I admire so much, and that is Ray Dalio. If you've ever read his book Principles or anything by this guy, or have ever heard him speak, he is a master of life, a master of finances, a master of investing, and he is just somebody that I admire truly to my core. And the first time that I read his book Principles, the first principle that really stood out to me so much is the sense that we have to practice being radically open minded. And what he writes is to practice radical open mindedness is essential in today's world. Even though it goes against our nature, it is the only way we can discover what is true. And what I find really fascinating is that I think that in today's world, the word open-minded has been really distorted, right? Because today, to be open-minded, if I were to tell you, well, he's really open-minded, you would think that's a person that accepts everything as true, right? Or accepts that, um, yeah, that accepts everything as true. And really what being open-minded is, and what Ray is trying to explain, is that being open-minded is not accepting everything as truth. Being open-minded is knowing that there is a truth, and that your responsibility is to be open-minded enough to hear other people's opinions and try to discover exactly what is true, even when it goes against the things that you believe. And the first time I read this, it blew my mind because I was just like, wow, like that is true. Like the only way in which we actually understand what is true and we discover what is true is by being honest and by being radically open minded to actually hear out other ideas, read other ideas, research, investigate, so we can actually see what is true. And that is something that Ray Dalio points out that I think is completely wise and obvious and true, which is that there is one truth. There cannot be multiple truths, because if they go against each other, then which one is true, right? And the reason why he says that it goes against our human nature, I think, is because we as humans have this really big flaw, which is also one of our survival instincts, although, but it's that we crave certainty, right? We want to be certain that we're safe. We want to be certain that we will survive. We want to be certain that, like the pond has water that we can drink. We want to be certain that we can have the food that we need. We want to be certain that we can have the comfort that we want. And sometimes this certainty can get in the way of us actually discovering what is true, because we don't want to feel uncertain about not knowing what is true and what is not. And that's why I think so many of us, and obviously myself included, we tie ourselves up to ideas that sometimes aren't even ours, just because it is what we've known and what brings us some sort of comfort. But the thing is that it might not be true. So that's why he talks about so much about practicing radical open mindedness in order to find out what is actually true. So, what does radical open mindedness look like? I think the first thing is that you are somebody that is open and willing to have conversations. I think the first step at the end of the day is being able to get yourself to that table and being able to actually converse with other people. And part of that as well is having a strong conviction in what you believe in, but making sure that that conviction is grounded in evidence. And I think that this is the problem that most people fall into, right? Which is, I have certain beliefs, and these can be political beliefs, religious beliefs, psychological beliefs, family beliefs, right? And I have these, thus I don't know why I have them. And I think that really is the first step of really being able to step up to the table and actually putting your ideas down and saying, okay, why is it that I believe in what I believe? And every single thing that you believe needs to have a why behind it. And this is where most of us struggle, right? Because that means that we have to, in a way, go and analyze every single idea, every single opinion that we have to actually see why is it that I believe this. But at the end of the day, if you don't, you won't know if that idea is even yours. Because when we grow up, so much of who we are is instilled by our parents, by our society, by our friends, by our close relatives, right? And it really is our responsibility to sit down and say, okay, why is it that I believe the things that I believe? Why is it that I keep falling into these belief systems, into these problems? Why is it about me that why do I keep doing this, right? And that is where the first step of being open-minded really comes in. Of you're supposed to be able to actually analyze your ideas, know what you believe in, understand why you believe that, know what the evidence is behind what you believe. And if you can't find evidence for you believing one thing and it makes no sense, you have to take it out. And then the next step of radical open-mindedness is being able to sit down with somebody else and actually having an idea. And here's, I think, where we get really scared and the claws come out, right? If you're a Democrat, having to sit down with a Republican. If you're a Republican, have to sit down with a Democrat, being able to converse, being able to talk. And I think the reason why is because we come into these conversations wanting to be right. We come into these conversations saying, okay, I'm going to convince this person of what I believe in, instead of saying, okay, what can I learn from this conversation? And I think there it's also obviously really important to know where in the hierarchy you are with this person that you're talking about. Is this a person that you're teaching to? Is this a person that you're learning from? Or is this a peer-to-peer conversation? And I think having that mindset as well preps you for the conversation that you're going to have. But at the end of the day, the big thing is being able to say, hey, you know what? I might be wrong. But knowing exactly what you believe in with the evidence that you found to make sure that what you believe in is actually accurate. Because that happens so much, man. Like, I think a lot about conversations that I've had with people, and even conversations, I was going to say, like, where I've asked somebody and they're like, oh, I believe this. And then I'm like, well, like, what's the evidence? But it's happened the other way around too, man. Like, I've had moments where people ask me, okay, well, what's the evidence? And I'm like, oh, yeah, like what is it? Yeah, what is the evidence, right? And I think that a really good practice here is to, and this is really hard, but I think a really good practice that is really hard but is so good is not saying stuff that you don't have a piece of evidence of why you believe that. And one thing that happens a lot, especially when we're talking about politics, right? Like, we get into these discussions and we might throw out there a something that somebody said on the video, something that we read on some website, and we do that with the idea of being able to at least win that argument, right? And I think that is why that is the biggest issue here, right? Like, the wanting to win. I want to win this argument. I want to show this person that I'm better than them, and that's exactly the problem. That's exactly why we cannot have conversations and we cannot actually get through to each other. And in my personal experience, like, I remember, like, when we were going through the campaigns, like for Trump and for Kamala, like, I remember, like, being so passionate about the things I believed in, and debating and getting angry at my parents and my mom and my sister. And it's so sad looking back, because it's like, wow, like, I was so intense that I didn't actually take time to analyze why they thought what they thought, or why they disagreed with the things that I was bringing to the table. And I think that realization is one of the most important ones that we need to have, and actually be honest with ourselves. And I think that is a good principle to have in your life. Of the things that I say them because I have evidence that they're true, not because I want to win an argument. The things that I say them because I know they are true, not because I want to win an argument. And what you realize really fast when you say that is that there is a really small amount of things that you actually know anything about. And I think a big issue as well today is that we have this fake necessity of having to know everything that's happening in the world, right? Like, this might happen to you, right? Like you go and get a burger with a friend, right? And right away the person says like, "Oh man, have you heard what's going on in Nigeria? Have you heard about what's going on here or there?" And you start to be like, "Oh yeah, yeah." So obviously like you don't want to seem like an idiot, so you say, "Yeah, I know what's going on." And then you go to the bathroom real quick, open up your phone, try to see what's going on, read like a couple of headlines, then go back to the table and talk as if you know what's going on. And that is one of the biggest issues, man. Like there's so much shit happening in the world that we think that we need to have an answer and a thought and an opinion of every single thing. And don't get me wrong, as a red-blooded American, I believe that yes, you should have an opinion on every single thing, but at the same time, you should be careful when you share those. And when you think about that of like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna share things about things I actually know about. You realize that that is why experts are experts in a single thing, because it is really hard to know a shit ton of stuff about one single thing, let alone four or five or six. So I don't know. I feel like this video kind of like I've been kind of riffing a little bit more than I would have wanted to, but going back to it, yeah, I think that the most important thing is being open minded, being able to have conversations with people that disagree with you, actually sitting down and analyze and hearing them out, right? And then really drawing the conclusions of what is true based on evidence, not based on emotion, not based on you want to win, not based on anything else other than what the evidence points out to. So this one was a little bit of a less planned one, but I hope you like it. And follow me for more content. And this is exactly what I want to do in this podcast. Talk about books and resources, men, women that have shaped history and what we can learn about them. So I'll see you on the next one.